Now, what I want to talk to you today is when you're doing a fat loss phase, okay, let's say you want to lose a lot of body fat. You might be bodybuilding, you might be, just someone who's regularly sort of exercising and wants to drop some body fat. Which type of macronutrient should you actually drop? Now, here's an interesting one for you. A lot of people will go and drop carbohydrates, believing carbohydrates is the reason why they're carrying more body fat. But I look at it from this point of view. If I'm still exercising regularly and I want to exercise intensely, I need those carbohydrates for energy. I'm not going to be using fats for energy unless I'm doing very low intensity exercise. But if I'm doing high intensity exercise, my body is going to use carbohydrates first, and it's not going to be able to use fats because the intensity is too high. When you do low intensity exercise, you can use fats because it requires more oxygen. But once you get into a form of exercise where there's oxygen debt, in other words, you don't have enough oxygen to burn the calories that you want to do, you need to start using carbohydrates because carbohydrates can be used without oxygen, okay? So obviously high intensity exercise, we're talking weight training and so forth. Now, the biggest problem that most people have is that they think, fats, because of insulin, causes you to obviously store more body fat. So therefore, in a calorie deficit, you will store more body fat. Now, this is not going to happen in a calorie deficit. But if you want to have the energy to train in a calorie deficit, definitely carbohydrates are going to be your friend. And I would drop some fats. Now, how would this really work? It really depends, I guess, on what you're already doing, okay? If you're on a fairly high calorie diet and you're deciding to lose weight for the first time, obviously I would drop both a little bit, okay, and get your calories down to the level it needs. I wouldn't drop protein. I would keep my protein a bit higher, but I would drop fats and carbohydrates at that point. But if I've already dropped some fats and carbohydrates and now I'm at a sticking point or a plateau, I would now drop fats out of my diet, not carbohydrates. Now, a lot of people would probably disagree with this, but I have learned over many years doing this, not just with myself, but other people. If I keep carbohydrates in my diet or I keep carbohydrates in my client's diet, they will have more energy to train and then they burn more calories, and then that actually can promote a greater calorie deficit. So if I drop carbohydrates, my energy is low, I probably don't train as hard as I can. And in that respect, I'm probably not going to burn as many calories. You cannot use fat in high intense exercise. You can't use it for fast twitch muscle fibers. They just won't, they don't use it. They don't have what's called a mitochondria. They only have a cytosol. So they cannot actually oxidize carbohydrates for energy. Or fats for that matter. So you can only go and break down carbohydrates in a glycolytic cycle. And so no, I'm actually doing a live and I'll record it and then people will be able to see it. So what I'm suggesting you guys do is when you're actually looking to lose body fat, okay, and you're already in a plateau, don't drop your fats, drop your carbohydrates. Don't drop your carbohydrates, keep your carbohydrates relatively high, drop your fats, and that's how you drop your calories. Your training will remain quite good, depending on how much you drop, of course, but you will still be able to train intensely and you'll still have the energy to train. So this is a really important aspect, and I've done this with many people over the years, and people get really sort of nervous about this thing because we've obviously always thought that the ketogenic diet is the best for like losing fat, especially when we're lean. Not always. Now, yeah, it will drop fat, but your energy will not be very good. And certainly when you're doing more, lower carb diets, you increase your cortisol levels, okay? Because cortisol is introduced into the body. It's secreted in response to low carbohydrates, all right? Its job, especially in the morning, is to actually introduce more carbohydrates, okay? Because you've got a low blood sugar level. And if you're not eating carbohydrates, you're going to produce even more cortisol, which is then actually going to prevent fat loss. So my suggestion, very strong suggestion, do not drop fats in a plateau. Do not drop carbohydrates in a plateau, drop fats, and you'll get a better response. Now, the other thing that you've got to remember is keep your vegetables high. You still need the fiber, okay? I still eat some starchy carbohydrates, even right up to the contest, except obviously in my last week when I'm trying to dry out a little bit. But still keep your starchy carbohydrates relatively high and keep it around your workouts. Okay, so you might have some starchy carbs before you train, some starchy carbs after you train, and that will help your training, okay, and it helps to prevent muscle loss as well. Carbs are protein sparing. A lot of people don't realize that when your body needs carbohydrates, and it does require glucose for a lot of your organs. In fact, all your organs use glucose for energy, and some of them can't use fats. You need to actually go and break down some of the amino acids in order to produce that glucose, okay? And that's going to affect muscle loss at that point. So obviously, calories in, calories out is important, but making sure that your carbohydrates are still relatively high. So that's my suggestion for you guys. If you got any questions on that, by all means, put some questions below. Try to be a little bit more respectful than King was. I come onto these lives. I don't expect to actually go and have a lot of people come on here at the beginning because I don't do a lot of lives on this platform. But if people have an actual question and you're in here to do with carbohydrates and what you should do with them, by all means ask away. I'm going to be on here for another 3 minutes. Now, the other thing is a lot of the time people, when they actually start to do, they get into a plateau, they do a hell of a lot more cardio, okay? And when they do that extra cardio, they do high intensity cardio. Now that's going to need more carbohydrates. So if you're doing that and then you're dropping your carbohydrates, you're going to be actually taken away from the energy of your workout. So you've got to look at your carbohydrates. I'm going to talk about carbohydrates tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about in terms of, workout intensity. And I'm also going to talk about, adding more cardio to your workouts, what you probably should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, in order to go and obviously break a plateau, with your fat loss, okay? Bodybuilding is one of those sports where we really focus on the diet as well as doing the weight training. And we do have a very good idea of what sort of diet works for people. So by all means, ask questions. I'm going to leave this live up, so I'll be here for 1 more minute. You got any more questions, by all means, ask away. And we will actually, answer your questions. So ask away, guys. And so 1 more minute. And then I'm going to leave this live here for you guys to have a look at later on. I do posts on this platform. Have a look at my posts. If you want to follow me, definitely follow. I'm going to be trying to give as much good information. I am a natural bodybuilder. I'm competing this year in Spain in the Spanish Championships and then the World Championships for natural bodybuilders. So if you want to follow me on this platform. But any more questions, I'm here for another 30 seconds. I'll answer your questions. If it goes over time, I don't mind answering questions if it goes over time. And otherwise, I will leave this up and I will see you next time.